Hey guys, what's up? It's Schla coming back to ya with another episode of Walks with Schla. And this is the second and last episode of the day because I didn't end up recording the lunch episode because I spent a little longer eating my lunch as I divvied up the portions a little bit differently. And it's very strange, you know? I think the refrigerated food really has done something good for me. I don't know, like my appetite is I'm just able to like eat it. It's weird. When I used to heat it up with the microwave, it would be like less appetizing. Isn't that strange? Yeah, I don't know. But I ate like so much food today. So much of my beef and cheese today was crazy. So basically, I really didn't want to rush through eating because I've been trying to avoid that. It's not healthy. And, I just, because I had so much extra food, and I just figured I would take my time and just eat it all, you know? So by the time I was outside, it would have only been a 10-minute walk with Schla, which I guess in retrospect, I could have and maybe should have recorded, but I don't really think it matters that much. So that's like the first walks with Schla I voluntarily missed. But I mean, how much does it really matter? It's like, I don't really think it's that big of a deal. It is what it is, It is what it is. What can you do? What I wanted to comment on, though, is I kind of realized that even if with my memory, it's interesting because I do critique, and when I critique other people's memory, of course mine's better than other people, but it is also admittedly a self-critique. I fall into the same feeling of incompetency surrounding memory. It's just that when you put me next to a regular human, or I'm dealing with like the average human, it just seems like whoa, like it's bad. Like regular person's memory, it's really bad. My memory, it feels bad to me, but I really don't think it's that bad in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah, I walked a different way because I always used to walk this one way. And then over time, I found different ways to walk. And so, yeah, after a while, I found these different ways to take. The current way I'm on now makes the most sense for the winter, especially. Now, when it's summer, I don't know how this is really going to work. I don't really know if I'm still going to be able to do walks with Schla, but there's not really any reason to think about that right now. It's pretty long before I'm going to have to consider any of that stuff. But yeah, I'm not certain what I'll have to do once it gets to be more hot out, and we'll just have to take things one step at a time. Who knows what I'm going to be doing 5 months from now for the 1 year of car rides with Schla. Maybe it'll just be a 1 year series and I'll wrap it up and I'll be on the streets. No, it's not even that funny. I don't even, anyways. So yeah, but what I realize is walking that different way is how much memory it brought back, and the feeling of walking that way. And it's like each way I walked kind of held a different vibe to it, because there would either be certain people I was talking to at the time or different things like that. that you kind of, the location and the area, it just gets like that feeling gets attached to those areas, which is why I think I actually like walking in the same paths. Because it's interesting how certain environments or certain repetitive feelings, like, they do really reinvoke and kind of reinvigorate the mind. And so what I'm thinking of just now is this is part of the main reason why people's memory is so much worse. Because with the advent of technology, and again, in my opinion, the misuse of technology, because again, technology is definitely not evil. It is the way that humans are tempted by it and the way humans misuse it. So my theory would be that tech is just a reflection of humanity. Humanity can get and achieve whatever it wants, and you see what, for most people, what that achievement is. If that makes any sense. So people who are good with good intentions, technology could be an amazing platform. We could see a rapid degree of progress. But for people with bad and evil intentions, which evidently is the majority of humans, technology will reflect that further. It allows people to further execute who they are. And that's basically what tech is. But no, it's not inherently evil. It's humans that are flawed. And we're abusing technology unconsensually. And that's really the problem. So part of our misuse is this addiction to novelty. It's very easy for humans to slip into a novelty addiction, it seems, where now everything is so rapid with the advent of TikTok and short form content. It shows that our brains love rapid switching and rapid newness and guessing, probability, chance. You know, in this case, gambling is a big thing that people are quite into. TikTok is a manifestation of gambling. People love novelty, and the problem with that is I think it's destructive to our memory generating pathways, because for you to have and maintain memories, they're attached to people. They're attached to people that you know. And again, as part of my theory, I've stated multiple times, humans are not meant to interact with the amount of people that we do. They're just not meant to do that. And so we interact with so many people in modern society and culture that it seems like, oh, now everybody's antisocial and introverted, when it's possible that people would not, and I would even go as far as to say probable, that the antisocialness or introvertedness wouldn't even manifest if you just didn't get tossed around so much. Like you go through high school, you go through elementary school, and now it's like these giant schools where you have like a ton of different teachers and students, and then you go off to college and then you meet more teachers and more students, and it's just so many people that you have to like remember and deal with, and this isn't good for our brains. You know, our brains were never meant to deal with so many different people. So it creates an introvertedness because the brain is overstimulated. Now, obviously, some people handle this just fine. There's lots of people who, you know, are, because it's a spectrum, of course, how many humans you would handle. Some people are just naturally extroverted and they just bounce around and they don't really think or care much about it. But for most humans, they would prefer to have stable, long-term friendships, not friendships like, okay, well, you're friends with this person for this period of time, and then now it's on to the next thing, you know? And for most of human existence, this was the case because people basically lived in their local communities. You never moved out. You never did any of that stuff. And it was happier and healthier for humans. You see this in underdeveloped societies because they don't have any technology and they just stick to their pride, and then that's it. So I think it's a big part of the human experience, right? Is this misuse of tech, modern society being exposed to way too many different people, people being short-sighted and becoming antisocial or thinking people are bad as a result of that, when it's not that people are bad, it's that the system and environment that people are in is bad, or it's not conducive to actually building good friendship, having good social interactions, which, yeah, I mean, it's just, you know, this cycle. Same cycle over and over again. You know, I could keep going at it. So yeah, it's interesting. It's an interesting thing. And I actually, this isn't even what I wanted to talk about. This all just came to me now. It's kind of a rehash of that original theory of mine. But the addiction to novelty, it's destructive to memory, because in order to reinforce memory, especially when it comes to feelings, I think it's actually very important to have repetitive behaviors. Playing the same game, bonding over it with people, you know, the same video game, not getting bored and like playing whatever's like the current trending game as what it tends to be nowadays. It's like every couple years there's just some new game, and then, you know, everybody forgets about whatever was trending before. And so since you can't go back, even like Fortnite cycles through maps, you know? And so since you can't go back to those previous moments and environments, there's also updates which fundamentally change games a lot of times. Since you can't go back, it's impossible for the brain to reinforce memories. It's because you can't, and that's what I'm realizing, like when I'm walking back in my old path that I used to walk, the feelings came back, all the different, and they weren't there when I didn't walk there, when I wasn't physically in that location. So I think it's an important thing to point out. I mean, when you're just going through TikTok and you're constantly being exposed to new content, new jokes, new trends, new things that eventually end up fizzling out and then you just forget about. I mean, what is that? You know what I'm saying? Like, you're really being very destructive to your memory and to your significance of how you interpret the world. And humanity always had this balancing act where there was always novelty and it was really marketed because new things, it's addictive for us. But the internet accelerated that to an extreme degree. You know, before with video games, of course, yeah, new games came out that you wanted to play, but it was much slower. And there were no updates and there wasn't as much change, so it wasn't as addictive, but it was more memorable, it was more significant. And when it comes down to it, I don't think this era is going to really be remembered. It's just a lot of games that had so many rapid updates. It's like there wasn't really a chance for any specific moment to cement in people's minds. Whereas people are always going to remember the video games from the golden age, because back then it wasn't like there was, every couple years now there's just some brand new game you have to hop on, and people still now, I think, if anything, it's more popular to recreate and replay the games from the golden age. And I wouldn't be surprised if even some younger people who weren't even alive during some of these older games go back and emulate them, just because of how much worse the games are now. But again, they're not worse, they're just more stimulating, they're more addicting. But it's not a good cycle to get into. It's kind of just that cycle of hedonism where you're turning up the heat so high, but then you can't really remember anything. It's just such a ridiculous situation, right? As we try to get through and figure this all out and all that stuff. But of course, nobody else thinks about it, which is beyond me. I don't know why it's difficult to notice this stuff. I would really like maybe for GPT to sort of explain to me, like, well, what is different about my brain, and give a comparison of my brain to the average brain or something, because I don't really get why this stuff wouldn't be hard to like understand or connect the dots. It's not really that crazy, So yeah, it's like now it's very difficult. I think I saw it growing up, and a lot of people did, because my generation was the true transitionary gen, where we saw the end of the golden age and then we saw the beginning of the silver age, the decadent age. There's decadent and decadence. I don't actually know how to say, because it's like there's like a decadent cake, but then there's like decadent. I don't know what I'm trying to say, but I know I'm getting those words mixed up, and I'm not really knowing how to say them. So we're just gonna smooth that over and skip that. But yeah, and I experienced it too, where there's certain games like flash games that had these like online experiences. I didn't play this one very much, but I think it's a good example. There was like some McDonald's online game or something, and one of the toys you got from McDonald's, which I didn't even eat fast food much as a kid, but again, like for some reason, this is like the one in a blue moon time. Maybe I was with like a friend and their family or something, and I had the Happy Meal, and so there was some online game that they were starting, which this was around the time, I guess it was games like Club Penguin, but it was like probably a little more advanced than Club Penguin. Club Penguin was kind of like the most basic of these kind of games, but there was a lot more like little more advanced ones where you have some kind of pet, where you have some character that you customize or whatever. And it was like Club Penguin, but it was like McDonald's, and the Happy Meal gave you some kind of code to use on there. And I didn't really play the game that much, but I remember it just because, again, my memory is pretty good. I probably only played it a couple times and then didn't bother, because, again, I didn't really go to McDonald's that much, so like it would have been hard to get into the game without getting the Happy Meals to get the toys and the codes. But anyways, that game's gone. You can't play it anymore, most likely. I think a better example was this Bakugan game that I thought was really cool and I was really into, and I never really got to play because I can't really remember why, but I think you may have had to keep buying like more Bakugan and keep putting more codes in, and since I was a kid, I couldn't do that. So I never really got to play it, and then when I was older, I wanted to replay it. But it's like long gone, A lot of these things start up, and then the servers aren't available anymore, and then they just shut down. So it's memories and experiences that are just gone. They're lost, and you can't play the game unless it was a big enough game that had like a large enough following to where, obviously, Club Penguin has gotten redone, and you can still play it because it was that big and that mainstream and simple enough and easy to get going. But like, I don't even know, I'd probably have to spend a good amount of time even trying to find that Bakugan game. You know what I'm saying? It's gone. It's lost to the sands of time because it costs money to have the servers up or whatever. And so there's different apps too that were the same way. They're different mobile games that I played as a teenager, and I remember them, and they're like gone now. They either eventually stopped development because maybe they went out of style and weren't making enough money, or the company just made a sequel and stopped updating the previous one, so then you can't really access it easily now. And again, some of these games you can't emulate. And it's a shame because there's a lot of like time I spent playing these games as a teenager, and they're lost. Like, I can't even access them anymore. It's like crazy, you know. And you never even think of this stuff as you're doing it, because I obviously would have acted very differently if I knew that. But back then, I mean, people were so out of it and so just like living life easy and thinking everything was forever. And now you realize it's like, wow, like all this stuff is gone. And so there's no significance to that. And it's only gotten worse. And with YouTube, it happened. I mean, some YouTubers or videos I liked are gone. And then, you know, with TikTok now, it's probably even worse with content just disappearing because it's so like rapid and insignificant. It's all like a big mess. It's horrible. And it's actually destructive for people's brains. And I'm realizing that, again, doing the same thing, watching the same videos or movies repetitively, I actually think it's good for the brain. I don't think it's good for the brain to try new things as frequently as we do. It's more addicting, but it's not good for the brain. It's been schla, but now it's time to buy schla. So, see ya schla.